Hi everyone, it is Niall and Tomas from niallpoints.com, and it's another episode of the Eurovision Podcast. It's episode 9, and for the very first time we've got a very special guest. Welcome to our lovely friend dudepoints.
Hey!
Hello, Snail. Hello, Damascus.
For a second, I was the only one applauding.
I'd done the intro. I didn't know what to do. So yes, we thought we'd have a very special guest. So here we go. We've got dudepoints, the wonderful, amazing, Gustav cosplaying, wonderful person that we all know and love. And if you don't know them, follow them on Twitter. We'll go through socials, all the rest of it at the end as normal. But for this episode, we're sort of thinking of doing our favourite moments of Eurovision 2024, not just the live shows, the whole season. And we could say it's been a season, hasn't it? For some, it might feel like 25 years. For others, it'll just be the 25 weeks. But yeah, let's start off with our special guest, Dude. Favourite moment of the season? And I've got a feeling I know what you're going to say.
I actually have a lot of favorite moments of the season, but I think my favorite moment of the season may be San Remo week, because it was Amadeus's last year as creative director, and he had 30 fantastic songs. There were a couple duds, but it was just a phenomenal show. Every night there was something that was a lot of fun, and San Remo week is a tradition that is among Euro fans. It's kind of its own little Eurovision week that we all participate in virtually. So it was amazing, and I think the Giolier versus Angelina Mango versus Mahmoud versus Annalisa tension was all there, but then you also had things like John Travolta dressing up and chicken dance. So there was something for everybody in San Remo week, and it's always a highlight, but just having it be Amadeus's last year made it really special.
And am I wrong in thinking that chicken dance has basically been scrubbed from the internet by John Travolta's team? as much as possible. I feel like
he tried to scrub it from the internet, but nothing dies on the internet, and it is definitely out there. Yeah.
I mean, Thomas is fully aware of how nothing dies on the internet this week. You can.
I have no idea what you mean.
Oh, if anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, just go to @PyDaTomReha. I've murdered that again. You will see. Go through the media tab.
I've done a bunch of not gonna lie questions, so it'll take him a while to find it.
They're Euro fans. They're committed. You're forgetting that. They're crazy and committed. That's not the moment I thought you were going to say, actually, dude. I thought you were going to say being in the arena when Luke won.
I mean, that was also a great moment, but I feel like I've said that a lot this season. So, yeah.
I don't think it could be overstated, because I think, I'm sure for you it would have been 100 times more insane. But just seeing the enthusiasm come through the screen from the crowd, it was unlike anything I've seen in some of these smaller countries in their national selections before. The hype, the excitement, certainly that must have been thrilling to be part of.
It was especially interesting because it was held in the city of Klaipėda, which is Lithuania's third largest city, but it's a seaside town. So it was like going to Blackpool in the middle of February. So it was pretty dead. And like the hottest action in town was at the mall, which was close to the arena. And I went in the arena and everybody was kind of dressed up and dressed to the nines. And I'd worn my Kaboom speed glasses, but nobody else, like, I could not tell. There was nobody looked like they were rooting for anybody. So I was kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And then Look Telk played and the crowd was into it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is good. And then Shower played, and the crowd was also into it. And I was like, okay, maybe this isn't so good. But then as Look Tell kept playing, the crowd got more and more hyped, and it was just amazing to see how it grew. Yeah.
I still think that super final performance might be one of my favorite performances of any Eurovision song this year. Tomas, Eurovision, what is your favorite moment of the season?
Like Dude, I've got a lot of favorite moments, a lot of memories that are going to stick with me. I think it's not so much a moment, but more of an experience. Being at the rooftop lounge, the Wee Wee Blogs rooftop lounge at the Emporia shopping mall, was definitely one of the highlights, because it was just so great. Like, first of all, you could go there for free, which is, you just rock up. If you're lucky enough, you get a chair in the front row, and then all these artists came there. A lot of them came. I wasn't there every day. I was only in Malmö until Thursday, unfortunately. But you got to see the interviews happening right in front of you. You got to chat with them. You got a picture with them. They were all so nice. Just meeting other fans, seeing people that you've been talking to, or maybe you haven't been talking to them, but you sort of know them from Twitter. You recognize faces. Sometimes you recognize names, and they come up to you and they're like, oh, I'm this person or I'm that person. It's like, oh my God, it's so nice to see you. So that's definitely one of my favorite moments of the season. And otherwise, I would say maybe just seeing the arena for the first time. I don't know for you guys, like, I don't know, I think Dude's been to Eurovision before. I know you've been last year to one of the rehearsals. For me, it was my first Eurovision live. So, getting inside that arena and then seeing that huge, like, long-ass screen with United by Music on it, and seeing the stage was kind of like a, oh my God, I'm actually here after all these years. Like, I've been watching Eurovision since I was I think I was 6 years old. It was 97. So my first vivid memory was Katrina and the Waves, and the Turkish entry Dinle. So, and ever since then I've been hooked by it. So just to be there in the arena was also fantastic. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it's quite surreal the first time you go into an arena. What was your first Eurovision?
My first in-person Eurovision was 2016.
Back in Stockholm.
Back in Stockholm. And the one thing I love about the Eurovision experience is that kind of traffic jam moment you get when everybody walks into the arena and then whips out their phone to get shots. But you can't begrudge anybody that experience, because seeing the stage in person for the first time it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think the Eurovision stage is like any other in some respects, because it is the largest TV show. It's made for TV, so it's not made to be like these sets that Taylor Swift will have, or any of these big names would have for arena concerts, because that may not work on TV. This is for TV, and it just something makes it look shiny, and apart from Rye, but it makes it look shiny and exciting and huge. Like, you forget how huge it is. Even between 2023 and 2024, vastly different arenas, vastly different experiences, but it was still just this whole feeling, like Thomas said, of what the hell? It's like, it's amazing. I'm going to say that my favorite moment is Eurovision in concert, and I'm going to pick particularly the press event. First of all, Dude totally took us under her wing, which we were, considering we were absolutely crapping ourselves, was very, 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 very much appreciated. And then just like the experience of actually getting to chat to these artists, and we've got the video footage of Nemo hugging Thomas. We've got the footage, our interview with Bambi, where one of my favorite moments from that interview is when she turns around and goes, "The forbidden combination? I'll wear it," and shakes her bum, like, just sort of like great attitude. that whole experience was absolutely mind-blowing. Everyone so lovely. I was so scared to meet these people, but they are just normal people. You know, Bambi just spoke to us like Nemo asked permission to go to the toilet. Like, that's one of the same the things that I keep repeating.
Yeah,
they're real people, and they treat everyone like real people as well. It's not like this whole sort of it's not like that Celine Dion gif where she's in the car and the window just goes up. It's not like that. It just felt like a very open experience, and the same went for the after party when you had Hera Bjork, Celia Capsis, Sarah Benici walk through and just be able to take photos with them. My run in with Slimane, like actually literally walking into him. It was all just insane. So I think that was a great moment. I think it was also a great moment for me coming back to the community, as it was mine and Thomas's second time meeting in person. And it was, considering we had been doing this for a couple of months, it was like quite surreal to actually be in person together again. But then also with yourself, Dude, Sarah, just seeing our friends, it always feels sort of special. And I do feel like we need more after parties so that we can continue that throughout the year. But yeah, I think I've got to say that was my favourite. So that's our favourite moments. Do we have any favourite songs that didn't qualify from the national selections? And I'm sure Dude could go forever here, because if I know Dude for one thing, it's how hard she gets into some of these songs. Just
we can make this a 3-episode special if we want.
if we need to.
If it's national selection things. So I just off the top of my head, so I love Lithuania's national final, and I will watch all the episodes of Eurovision, as they call it now, because I'm really attracted by how democratic it is. Lithuania is a small country, and sometimes if you have a high school teacher like Voldemars Petersons who can get up on stage and be part of this Eurovision process, I just love that. I think it just makes it something special. But this year, there was a really amazing act in Lithuania, which was a person named Marvin who came on stage with a box on their head, and they wore a cardboard box on their head, and they sang their song wearing a cardboard box on their head. And then in the middle of the song, like, dancers ran out and wrapped them in more cardboard. So by the end of the song, they were fully in cardboard, and they didn't make it beyond their heat. They didn't make it into the final, but it was one of the most original and interesting performances I've seen this national final season, and I can't wait to see them come back next year. So I think if it's one of the performances that I keep thinking about, even though it only appeared once on television.
Yeah.
So you said it was a unique performance. Was the song good? At least
the song was really good as well. It was a sad song, but it was, and I'm usually more of a banger person, but it was a catchy sad song, and adding that kind of staging where they just layered up in the armor of cardboard boxes. I was like, this is something I haven't seen before, and I really wish it had gone a little further.
Feels a little bit Shia LaBeouf. I'm not famous anymore sort of situation, doesn't? Also, can we use Shia LaBeouf as a verb, like, or an adjective, whatever that is in English? I feel like I don't need to ask Thomas this question because we all know the answer. But go on.
Yeah, a couple of ones that I really, really like. Let me do like one or two honorable mentions first. I'm still really gutted for Kaino. I did really enjoy that song. Do I think it would have done better? I don't know. this is bound to happen throughout, and it's always happening to me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it would have particularly done better than Ulfaham. I think maybe because of the love that they get from the fandom, they would have gotten a bigger televote. But that's definitely one. There was actually one in the Lithuanian national final that I really liked as well. I think it was Prydikomet or something. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was one of the songs when I listened to it, because I did a review of all the heats before the live shows, and that was one of the songs that I didn't really pay attention to, but when I saw it live, I really loved that performance. I thought that was very beautiful. I think they did make it to the final.
They did make it to the final, and the woman in that is the same woman who did Need More Fun last year in the Lithuanian national final, which also had a really phenomenal performance, where she used essentially kind of the like a bot where everybody dressed like her, and then she didn't come out until the middle of the performance, and we were all trying to figure out who was singing.
Yes. I saw that clip. Yeah.
That sounds like such a Lithuania thing, though. I felt like when I was watching the Lithuanian national final, I was constantly thinking this feels like something only Lithuania could get away with. You know, they sometimes do send these type of songs where you're like, yeah, that works for them.
Do they still use "We Are the Winner of Eurovision" as the musical sting?
Yes.
That's iconic. The fact that they're still doing that.
Do you know, in Belgium we have a bit of history with that song, because that is the one song that we were all like, oh. Sorry, I need to just keep my hands down. I'm just going to sit on my hands for a while. That was the one song where the Belgians were like, how did that make it to the final? And Kate Ryan did not. So there's a little bit of a grudge there held by the Belgians. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, my favorite song is Paskana. It was, oh God, when that song came out, it is still, to this day, more than any song that actually made it to Eurovision, it's still my most played song. I just love it so much. I loved the performance. The vocal was not on point, which is maybe what was its downfall. She still got a considerable televote result, though. She won the jury. And that's not to say that I wasn't happy with Windows 95 and Henry going to Eurovision. I thought they completely smashed it. They were so much fun, lovely people. We met them in Amsterdam. But yeah, that would have been my winner here. It made it. So I'm still a little bit heartbroken that did not get its moment to shine, because I really did think, I don't think that the staging was, someone described the staging, oh, this is the best staging I have ever seen in any show. I'm like, no, but it was still phenomenal stage. I really did like the visual of the circle, the circle of light that was sort of twisting, and then the lamp going. I thought that was all very, very well done, because it's one of those songs you can stage this in many ways, but in many ways it'll always be like, oh, well, we've sort of seen that before in this performance, and we've sort of seen that before in that performance. And I think they really did such a good job at making an original staging that was simple but very, very effective, just playing with the light. So yeah, that's definitely the one that got away from me.
Next year, on his other thigh, Thomas is going to get a Sarah Sipila tattoo. Just her face.
And then I can do a picture.
Do you need more followers?
Well.
Okay, this is really difficult. So you've mentioned Kino already, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. I've actually already been speaking about Kino today as well, so we can skip over. MGP was really good this year, though, I feel. I particularly liked Save Me by Anne Princess. Yeah. I feel like that's a song we've all forgotten about really quickly, but it was. I feel like it's such a nice summer song, but with chilled, relaxed vibes, but also it's got the beat in there as well. The performance was weird, not going to lie, but it was a really great song. We got some really weird ones from Sweden, we obviously got the iconic Forever Yours with Elisa Lindström. We got Gunilla, because she can't shake. One of the biggest fan favourites was Unga and Fria, Frokens Dusk. But I think my favourite song of the season was paid absolute dust by the judges in San Remo and the televote. You know exactly where I'm going, but Dimenticrese by Clara is an absolute bop. That comes on my shuffle quite a lot, and I'm still just like, this just feels amazing. That was one of my favorite songs of this season, because San Remo for me is one of those, I don't normally pay too much attention for it because it tends to be a little bit ballad heavy, and like, dude, I'm a banger boy. That always sounds like a slur, but I'm a banger boy. So I wasn't sure what. It seems to be ballad heavy quite often, but this year was very eclectic. But Dimenticrese, absolutely. I think it was the first song performed on the first night or something like that as well, because I got to like 10:30 at night, and I was like, I need to go to bed. I've got work at 8 o'clock in the morning, guys. But it was the first song, and it just stood out to me so quickly. I felt like she was a really good performer as well vocally. There wasn't too much staging, there never is in San Remo, but just, yeah, that I feel like I think it came 27 for 26 or something like that in the end, and I was just absolutely gutted, because I know it was a new artist, but deserved more. All the flowers were sent to her from me. But yeah, it's been quite an interesting year musically, because we've called it the carrier effect in the past, and it's not that people are trying to be carrier, but it's that people are more willing to take risks, or more willing to be fun rather than just standard pop. So, you know, we've got your Windows 95 Man, we've got your Baby Lasagna. Was there anything in that sort of carrier effect? This is sort of different from what we'd normally get at Eurovision, that kind of really piqued your interest this year?
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would note that it's interesting you mention that, because in Estilao, which is usually one of my favorite national finals, I was really struck by how kind of down in the dumps many of the songs were. It was a very sad national final. A lot of the songs were from younger artists. A lot of the songs were more ballady. You had a couple of outliers with Bad Boy, which I really liked. It was it was a goofy song. But I think that's one reason why you had 5 Minutes and Pulup winning, because they stood out. And every year Estilao does have artists who are quote unquote weird, in that they have a sort of alt or indie or non-traditional vibe. And this year, I think the field was kind of clear for them, because in the past you'd have them competing, but then you'd have something safe win. I was actually really surprised, conversely, in Iceland, where you had a lot of really interesting kind of synth pop coming forward. And then, of course, Bashar and Wild Wild West, which was a great song with really good staging. And then Hera Bjork winning with a very traditional Eurovision song. And I love Hera Bjork, and I actually ended up loving Scared of Heights. I feel it coming. But I didn't think that the national final would end that way, and it was kind of like the reverse Kari effect, with a country going for something, a country which has sent stuff like Dathi Freyr and sent stuff like Hattari, going for something that was very safe when all the other countries are kind of swerving in the other direction.
Yeah, I think it is quite interesting when you do look at it. I think for me, one of the standouts of this sort of going different. I feel it was more with the artists themselves, the carrier effect sort of applied to, rather than the actual countries and who they were voting for, because I just felt like people were like more free to like express themselves, and maybe like some of the selection, internal selections like for Melfest, etc., was maybe a bit more like, okay, we'll give you a shot. So I immediately think of Scarlet with Circus X. Like that was not what you would normally expect for Melfest. It was totally different, and really it also became a fan favorite too. But I think you also saw the same with Bambi Fug ultimately with their performance. That was actually close to being one of my favorite moments, seeing the 30-second snippet of their rehearsal for the first time, and then seeing the live performance for the first time on that Tuesday afternoon was mind blowing. So I do like this sort of freedom of expression that artists felt they were able to portray. And that sort of, there wasn't like, oh, this is cool, but it's not for Eurovision. If we want to take it seriously, and Bambi ended up in 6th place. Absolutely fantastic. Thomas, do you have any similar vibes for songs, or are we just going to talk about Baby Lasagna again?
No, I mean, yeah, Baby Lasagna is obviously a great example of countries taking risks. Although one could argue that Croatia is not scared to take a risk. They have taken risks in the past, and a couple of times it really paid off. It paid off with them for them with Let's Play as well, or Let's Be. I don't know how to pronounce it. So maybe you could argue that Croatia didn't exactly take a risk in their own standards. They did pretty much what you could expect Croatia to do. The biggest one for me is Ireland, and it's not just Bambi and the song, because to be honest, when we saw the performance at Eurosong, I don't think a lot of people were really impressed. People liked the song, but not the performance. So that didn't really seem that out of the box. It was just kind of like weird and a little, crazy. But then the actual, their actual performance at Eurovision, that was something that completely blew a lot of people away, especially the fact that it did come from Ireland. So I just like seeing artists getting that creative freedom. That was one of the worries that we had for Ireland. Like, let's hope that they give them the creative freedom to put on the show that they want to put on, that RTE doesn't dictate like, oh, but we want it to be, especially RTE or Ireland being still quite religious, I think, in a way. The fact that they were like, you know what, just do your thing and we'll go with it, and it paid off for them. So I like seeing not just artists doing their own thing, but also bringing something traditional, bringing something that's typical for their country. I loved seeing Armenia going back to that.
Oh,
is the Armenia that I have missed. One of Armenia's first entries. I think, in fact, their very first entry in 2006 was kind of like a bit of a boppy, some sort of like Eastern European summer vibe. They had Kele Kele, which was exactly that, which was hugely popular. And then they've sort of gone into a different route. And I'm not saying that they have not been good since then. They've sent a lot of really good songs, with RMMP3, which was a song that I really liked. Iveta Mukuchan was very good. But they were all very different. And now Armenia, I feel like, has gone back to its roots a little bit, bringing something completely traditional, folk, in the Armenian language. It really took me back to their 2009 entry, which I think was Janjan or something, is what it's called. The twins who came back later, a couple of years later for them. It took me back to that. And this is kind of the type of song that made me fall in love with Eurovision in the first place. If I go back to what I said before, Dinle, the Turkish entry in 97, was also very traditional, very typically Turkish. And that's the sort of thing that I love. And you could kind of say that Croatia did the same. They kind of did something that feels like it's only going to come from Croatia. I feel like Ukraine has that as well. All of these countries, especially Eastern European countries, have a certain way of doing Eurovision that feels very authentic to them. Whereas in the West, you sort of get your traditional pop songs, which can sort of, even though pop is also obviously very popular here in the West, it also sort of feels like it's all sort of blending together, like we're all sort of sending similar stuff. So sometimes I'm like, for example, Belgium, like even if you just think about the language, we have 3 official languages. And the last time that we sent a song that was fully in one of those languages was, I think, 2005. Which was, I mean, we've sent 2 songs in an imaginary language, for Christ's sake. So I would love to see Belgium going back to its roots as well. Just send something. It can be pop, but just send something in Dutch or in French or even in German. So that's what I love to see. And I know that doesn't really have much to do with the Käärijä effect, although I do feel like Käärijä was also something typically Finnish and something that you could expect from Finland. So I think that's more the effect that I have seen, is people just staying true to themselves.
I think you've put your finger on it. The Käärijä effect is the authenticity. So it's moving away from a situation where you're going to have 5 or 6 Swedish songwriters writing a song, giving it to an artist, and then having the artist perform it. You're going to have the artist involved in writing the song, performing the song, having a say in how it's staged, etc. So it is very much part of their vision that is on stage, and not just the artist as the conduit and the mouthpiece. So, you know, we talk about Johnny Logan being king of Eurovision because he won it 3 times, and one of those times was as a songwriter, because at that time songwriting was king. The artist was the person who performed it, but the words were what mattered.
Yeah.
I would like to go back to a little bit more of that as well, I think. But I am still just going to be a sucker for a basic pop song. Always and forever. In regards to Eurovision 2024, I am intrigued. I gave you a little bit of a heads up right before we actually started talking about this, dude, but you were in the press room for a lot of it. How was the atmosphere actually there? Because for all intents and purposes, in the arena, although there's a little bit of tension, everything felt sort of like a normal Eurovision. And it is the press room that we're hearing where a lot of this real tension and real sort of loss of control happened, and was maybe a bit more prevalent. How did it actually feel being in that situation?
So the press room, it's slightly weird because it's like being in an office. They're like long tables set up where everybody kind of comes in and puts up their laptop, and they have large screens, so everybody's kind of watching and chatting and watching and chatting. And there were some tense moments that other people have reported, but you could kind of avoid them. I think when things got weird, it got really, really weird, was at the rehearsal on Friday, when you had the flag parade and everybody walked out on the flag parade, and then you had the moment when we went directly from Luxembourg into Israel, and we're watching this in the press room, and I was watching this because I was going to record a podcast later that night, and I was like, and when I record the podcast, I was like, I want to watch it on TV, and then I'm going to see it in the arena. I have tickets for the jury show that night. So I was like, well, let me get the TV experience and then a live experience, and hopefully I'll be able to say something intelligent about both. So it goes to Israel, and I'm like, oh, they've made a mistake again, just like they made that Austria postcard mistake. Technical rehearsal, you got to work these things out. They've put the wrong postcard up, but then you don't have Jost show up, and everybody's like, and it goes into the Israeli performance, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe because of the tension, they've switched the order. And then they go right into Looktelk afterwards. And I'm like, wait a second, why isn't he performing? So from that point onward, nobody's paying attention to the show. It's playing and people are kind of trying to see what's going on, but everybody's then trying to figure out what's going on. Nobody has any information. Everybody's chatting. And it's just a really uncomfortable environment. And because people don't know what's going on, but we all know something is wrong. So I think it's uncomfortable in that way. And it was a pretty tense environment. And I felt tense for most of the day until I went into the jury show. And then the performances came on. And then I just kind of relaxed because once again, when the opening bit of Looktelk hits,
You can't help it. You can't help it.
Yeah, exactly.
Endorphins everywhere.
Endorphins everywhere. But I think it was, it was a it wasn't. I don't know how to describe the atmosphere, but it was. Nobody knew what was going on, and nobody was saying anything, and I think the communication was really poor, so that kind of added to it, and rumors were flying, and it was kind of trying to figure out what was rumored, what wasn't, and who could corroborate what was true when the EBU wasn't necessarily making any comment.
So did you have any clue of, like, because obviously we read all the rumors online, and we were just going off of what people were saying, mostly from the press room. Did you have any idea who was getting news? Because a lot of the rumors were just rumors, but there were also rumors that then ended up being true. There was a rumor like, oh, there was a physical altercation between Joost Klein and someone. At first they said it was with someone with the Israeli delegation. That turned out not to be true, but there was apparently a physical altercation. So do you have any idea, did someone come in at some point and talk to someone in the press room? Who started those rumors? Who got news?
It was, my sense is that a lot of it, like, people were chatting and gossiping, but things were flying by text message. So, we were all running around showing each other things on Twitter, on various messaging things. So we were all trying to figure it out. If we got emails, the EBU did send out a statement, so we were all then sharing that statement with each other, saying, did you see this? But it was a lot of, I think, what was happening outside, where we were all just trying to figure out what was happening and then just get some answers.
Yeah.
And then also write about what was happening in the show, and try to pay attention and say, oh, here's what the jokes might be tonight, or, here's what to expect this evening. And I
have to ask the most important question. Were you there when Angelina Mango started to sing Imagine?
I was. So I had run to get a cup of coffee, because coffee is always the downfall. And then I came back in, and there was like a huge gaggle of people, and I hear somebody singing. So I kind of walk up to the edge of the gaggle, and I'm like what's going on? And they're like, oh, it's Angelina Mango. And I'm like, oh, okay. And yeah, so I was there for the Angelina Mango sings Imagine moment.
Do you think that was sort of like Angelina doing a bit of a statement as well? Because it is obviously, meaning of the song obviously tells you that she might have been saying, you know what, I need to do something here. Maybe she wasn't allowed to do a lot more. I don't know. It's just the song choice was kind of interesting at that time, especially with everything that was going on.
Eurovision's very own Gal Gadot.
Well, Eurovision already had Gal Gadot in 2019.
Yeah, they
'cause she
did, yes.
opened, yeah.
True.
What a Eurovision it's been. Do we have anything else that you would like to give honourable mentions to about this season? Can be absolutely anything.
I think, like, honorable mentions, it has been a really tough season in terms of a lot of people in the fandom kind of thinking, okay, what do I do based on the choices that the EBU didn't make, or just kind of said, oh, we're not going to deal with the situation. And I think a lot of fans were then left grappling with situations that many of them didn't feel prepared to deal with. So a lot of people have been kind of trying to figure out larger issues. One of the things I think has been really nice, and one of the things I appreciate about this Eurovision season, is the way that we've come together around it. And I've still had moments with friends like you, where we've managed to bond despite all of the stuff happening outside Eurovision. So Eurovision, the community, as Bambi Thug would say, is there and is strong and is something. Even though Eurovision, the organization, has issues, Eurovision, the people, is still a welcoming and wonderful place. And I know that for a lot of people, they weren't comfortable taking part in Eurovision, the organization, and its activities this year. And I can't wait to see them back. Hopefully, we'll see in Eurovision the community next year, because we did miss them.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was really rambly.
No.
No,
I think
it's actually on point.
the community has just been absolutely just insane, the amount of people that we've been able to meet. Even arranging to meet you in an espresso house and walking into Danny from Eurohub and the Eurohubbers, just this lovely, like, oh my god, it's you, and almost feeling starstruck just by seeing people that you interact with on Twitter. Like, it was almost as starstruck as I was when I walked in, and got a photo with Conchita at Euro Club. You're just like, it is that level of I like your things all the time. Like, you don't necessarily interact all the time, but you're always liking, and we do with Danny, obviously. But no, I think you're right. Thomas, any honorable mentions from you?
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say as well. Just the way that the community and the fandom sort of like stuck together, because I feel like, especially on Twitter, not so much on the ground, but like on Twitter, things can get very heated. People have all these kinds of opinions. A lot of these fans are also sort of anonymous. They're hiding behind a picture of an artist or something, which isn't a bad
Okay,
thing.
way to call Dude out right now.
Listen, let me finish. If that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. But a lot of these accounts are the ones that are the fiercest online, and it's sort of like, when I do have a negative interaction with that kind of person, I'm like, I can't even take you seriously. I don't even know who I'm talking to. Obviously, I know who Dude is. We've met, and I know that you're lovely and you're amazing. But what I'm trying to say is that despite all of that negativity, and that negativity was there all the way up to the point where, this whole loss of control from the EBU started during Eurovision week. And that's sort of when the more they lost control, the more we sort of like stuck together, and people were, shouting out support for Joost, shouting out support for Bambi, for, for Nemo, for Sylvester, who were probably struggling the most, who were being targeted by, specific members of a delegation. And I just loved seeing the fans coming together. I loved seeing the artists sticking together and sticking up for each other. Because I think I tweeted out a while ago as well. Sylvester tweeted about him being happy that it was over and that he wished it was over after the semifinal because of the fact that they were on, I think, after Israel was on in the final. And he said, like, the crowd was so chaotic and so, how do you call it? It's sort of not electric.
You could cut the atmosphere with a knife.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah. They were quite hostile, the audience, at that point. And then he had to go on directly after in that sort of hostile environment. And I do think that the vibe changed when his song started and people were cheering for him. But you could kind of see during his performance, the first couple of seconds, you could sort of see the fear in his eyes, something that I hadn't seen in his other performances. And I tweeted out after that, when I read his tweet, I was like, no single artist should walk away from Eurovision with that in the back of their head, with that being the first thing that they think of. Because we as fans, we love this contest so much, but we also love the artists for a lot. And we would love nothing more than our favorites to one day come back to Eurovision. And I think it's safe to say that some of these artists this year will probably never do that. I cannot see Bambi or Sylvester coming back anytime soon because they did not have the experience that they should have had. So that's my honorable mention. Just the fact that despite all of that, we all stuck together, the fans, the artists. I thought that was beautiful.
My honorable mention is on a similar vein, but is specifically those artists who did allow us to have a positive experience, who were, having those friendships and interpersonal connections that allowing us to see it, from the off, the Sylvester Nemo friendship, and then Bambi came into it with Ollie, and just the fun that they were able to have despite everything that was going on. Even Ollie was able to have fun with it, and he was having a very difficult time of it, at home especially. I think the fact that despite all of what they were going through, they were still able to make us feel a part of it and make it feel special was just beautiful. And that's one of the reasons I'll support those artists. We've got Bambi Fug tickets on sale at the moment. I've got mine secured. They're not going to Belgium, so Thomas is angry. But yeah,
I'm never coming to Belgium. Do you know La Daniva's coming to Belgium?
And Neva's not even coming to Scotland.
Well, they're coming in July. It's like there's like huge festivities in Ghent every year, and it's free. So I'm going to be going to La Daniva.
Nice. If I had the money, I'd be flying over and being like, "Cut that makeup." But yeah, I think overall we've had a difficult year, but would we all agree it's still been a good year?
Yeah.
Although I do just want to kind of go back to your points, and I think about artists. So part of what made this year uncomfortable were larger geopolitical issues that linked to EBU rules and whether or not a broadcaster was in clear violation of those EBU rules. The EBU said no, many of us thought they were, and then but I think something that's lurking outside of that and something that will color my enjoyment of future Eurovisions is how the EBU treats its artists in the future, because the way artists were treated this year was not good. And looking at the number of complaints that came out for a variety of artists, Gate, who have been performing for 25 years, they're a folk metal band. They have seen some stuff.
Yeah.
And for them to say this was not great. But then also artists coming forward this season, Lazara, May Muller, who was like, I'm not watching Eurovision because of the mental health issues that it caused for me. Steen, who talked about how she felt like her boundaries were violated backstage because people were constantly asking for photos and doing other things. She never got that chance to kind of say, no, this is like my downtime. So I think we really need to look at how artists are safeguarded,
Yeah.
how artists are treated, because we wouldn't have a Eurovision without the songs and the artists. And I don't know if I can be a fan of Eurovision if the organization isn't going to take better care of its artists and take care of their mental health. And I think that's what worries me the most next year. Like, yes, the larger geopolitical issues are out there, but more importantly, it's this issue which we really need to resolve.
Yeah, they're humans at the end of the day, aren't they? So they need to be treated with respect. And I do think the fact that everything with complaints and mental health issues has been so public, that does give me some hope that there will at least be something done. Even if it's not the larger changes that many of us feel are needed in regards to our artist welfare, then I think you get better treatment on Love Island. I think better welfare on that and stuff.
I think they can maybe make one small change a small change, and might have a big impact on some of the fans. But one thing that I wouldn't mind that they changed is the sort of like immediate cameras and interviews right after they come off of stage, off of rehearsal. I know that obviously, since I live in Belgium, I see a lot of the Belgian news. Musti also repeated constantly that it's not nice to have a camera shoved up your face and being bombarded with all these questions when you've just had a rehearsal that went completely shit, that nothing went the way that they wanted it to. And then you have to sort of like react, and they're like, this is not what I want to put out to the world. And I think if they would just change that and be like, you know what, this is rehearsal. We don't need to see reactions from rehearsals. We don't need to see that. That's not something that is important to me. I like what they did with like the broadcasters themselves releasing clips of what they wanted to release, like RTE did, which had such a huge impact. That was nice, but I don't need to see their immediate reaction just after they come off stage, especially not after a first or second rehearsal. I think that could change a lot for their well-being, that they're sort of like, okay, this either went really well or it did not go well at all, but at least now I can just go backstage. I can have a little chat with my delegation and we can work this out without having all these cameras. I think the whole
to be diplomatic about it as well.
Exactly. The whole situation with Joost would not have happened if they had respected his boundaries, where he said, like, I do not want to be filmed, or at least I do not want to be harassed right after I come off stage of a rehearsal. Like, just I've asked you not to do it, then don't do it. And that's on SVT. That's on them. I mean, I'm not saying that they're the only ones that have done it, but boundaries should have been set right there. So that's a small change that they can do, I think.
Yeah. Especially because everybody's going to say something like, oh, I had so much fun being on stage for the first time. It was great. Like, it's all going to be like stage managed stuff. It's not going to be actual feelings. Just let people go and let them experience. I think there's a lot of stuff. Like, even as a fan doing press, I'm just amazed at how much time and space these artists give us as fans and as fan press. I would not be able to do it. I would, like, after 3-4 hours talking to people, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I've got to shut down. See you later. I'm gonna go like
lie down for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so hopefully we'll see some changes come in, but I think we've had a good go over the year. It's time for the Neil Pwa question. We asked a load of the Eurovision acts listed Eurovision in concert. You can see what Windows 95 Man and Bambi Fug had to say on our YouTube channel. But it's time for Dude to choose a number between 1 and 40, and they'll get their dilemma.
Let me say 17.
17. Okay. So, would you rather wake up every morning with the song "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go" stuck in your head, or you have to spray an entire can of hairspray in your hair every single day.
Easy. Wake me up before you go every day.
Tune, classic.
Yeah,
Put it on
absolutely.
repeat. I don't care.
No, like
I was reading
100%.
that, like, how's this a dilemma?
Yeah, it's
I
not
think
a
you'd have to
dilemma.
be a morning person for that to not drive you crazy.
I'm autistic. I already have like songs on repeat in my head all the time. So that would just be like, this is normal for me. Yes.
Such is the life of a Eurovision fan. Just
What, being autistic?
no. Just...
Yes.
Okay, dude. Promo. What socials do you want to promo? What blogs?
So I'm mostly on Twitter at dudepoints or dudepoints.
As it's supposed to be pronounced.
As it's supposed to be pronounced. And then I can't really. I'm on Blue Sky as well at dudepoints.bluesky, whatever the rest of it is.
Just write that down.
Be more on Blue Sky. I don't really. I do Instagram, even though I should, but
But you've also got your blog.
Yeah, and I do have my blog, which is dudepoints.fun. Because we started doing this to just make fun, like just shitpost. It was all about the shitposting. Like, we really just wanted to make fun of where Tom Lieb lived in the Eiffel Tower, and and now we're talking about geopolitical events.
And there's not really a way you can make them fun.
No.
Not the current geopolitical events, anyway. As always, you can follow us at niallpoints on Twitter and Instagram. We're mostly active on Twitter too. Mostly our personal ones, so you can also follow me at niallpoints. I've got those wrong, haven't I? It's niallpoints blog. It's niallpoints blog for the Instagram and Twitter.
That makes two of you going, whatever, somewhere on Twitter or somewhere.
Marketing,
And then niallpoints.com, there's stuff on there sometimes.
There's going to be something on your screen, don't worry, you'll see it.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, niallpoints, at niallpoints, even.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Paidatom.
Don't forget, if you're watching...
great photos on there, right? That's what I've heard.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Yeah. Some amazing photos on there.
Tom is a fantastic photographer. He really captures the essence of the subject that he is trying to portray.
Are we actually being serious, or are we still talking about that one picture?
Maybe you'll never know. Remember,
it's not on Instagram, by the way.
He's even directing you to where to go. He's telling you where to go. He's desperate for your attention. Right, I was trying to say something. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment below, tell us your thoughts. What were your favourite moments of Eurovision 2024? Wow, that's new. Oh no, it's coming out your neck.
Fireworks coming out of your neck. I'm one of the people who listens to this as a podcast, so I feel like I should add the audio description. Because I'm old and I don't do YouTube. So
those of you do subscribe. If you're on podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Amazon Music. If we're not where you want us to be, tell us and we'll look into it. But it was a struggle to get on Spotify and Apple Music at the first place, so that's probably all you're going to get. And yeah, we will see you in the next episode. Dude, thank you so much for being here. We love you so much.
It was so great seeing you again.
God, at least it's not fireworks coming out of your neck again, Thomas. Honest to God.
Do you know what? The fireworks are actually on point, but this is going out on Sunday, right?
Probably.
Which is on my birthday.
So it's Bastille?
Oh yes!
Wait, no.
Happy birthday, Thomas!
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
We will edit the middle bit of this out, but happy birthday, Thomas!
Today is my birthday.
As you're listening to this, if you're listening on release day, it is Thomas's birthday. It's now 33 years old.
Oh, you did that!
Yeah, did that.
like, what did I do now? Thank you.
We love our Thomas, and there wouldn't be a Niall Poir without Thomas, even though his name's not on the site. And yeah, again, dude, thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you all in the next episode.